Hello, everybody on the internet watching, and welcome to the second game of Week 8 of the Totally Normal Football League. We're live here in the final Hamilton game of the season as the Rollers, who are still winless at 0-7, are inviting the Kingston Gators to town. And these two teams is the last matchup together of the regular season. The Rollers have won the opening coin toss, so Kyle Borger will kick it off to Dalton Mini-Small to begin this game. So the Rollers, they're out of the playoff picture altogether here in the TNFL, but they can play for something a bit more spiteful as Dalton Mini-Small kneels for a touchback on the kickoff. Play for something a lot more spiteful. They can play spoiler if they get their first win against Kingston here tonight. They will offer Toronto the chance to take their playoff spot, that number 2 spot, and also cut the Gators bid for, as Oscar Dudeman is making shit up as he runs along the middle there for a 5-yard gain. What the heck was that? But yeah, if the Rollers can stick a dagger in the Gators here tonight, the Gators will pretty much be unable to get the division championship, and I think that means the Hellcats still pretty, virtually clinch it. And, oh my god, big blitz there by Drew Badford as that pushes the Gators back really far. Badford's first sack of the game. So while the Rollers are down, former star and David Rains, they traded Rains to the Janitors last week as Graham Howard throws it to an open Oscar Dudeman. He's going to be short of a first down. That does mean that Evan Sackland was moved from the offensive line to the defensive end position to fill it in. So you still have Drew Badford, Brendan Lakestrong, Rocky Philbin, and Evan Sackland on that defensive line, that is, which sounds mighty scary. And you're seeing their ability to get to the quarterback with a big sack on Graham Howard. And the Rollers successfully force a 3-and-out on the opening possession. Sid Manderjukt returns it to the team's own 45, team's 40, at the 42, as they have excellent field position for Bud Beaglesworth's first possession of the game. Garrett Rinser alongside Slick Quiglet, who gets the fullback handoff here, tackled down by Jay McDiggle after a 3-yard gain. Of course, these two teams, the Gators, still feel like they have a score to settle with the Rollers after the Rollers not only handed them their first loss of Season 2, ending their 6-game winning streak, but also eliminating them from the Season 2 playoffs as Bud Beaglesworth on the keep gets a first down to the Gators' 45. Let's take a replay of that keep. That was excellent. As Erwin Mongo sort of gets a lead block on. And Robert Klungo was able to maintain his hold of Mark Maskinson. Great quarterback scramble there for a first down. Bud Beaglesworth standing in the shotgun. Gators send 4. Bud Beaglesworth on the keep. This one stopped for no gain by Mark Maskinson and Matthew Hart Bishop. Second and 10 at the Gators' 45. Garrett Rinser on the counter run is only going to get a single yard before Jay McDiggle tackles him down. That'll bring up a third down for the Rollers. So this is the Rollers' last home game of the season. This is the last time they're able to attempt to get a win this season in front of the home crowd and make them happy with a spite win over the Gators. So I'm hoping that happens as Bud Beaglesworth steps back over the middle. It's caught by tight end Richard Dollar-Store behind the sticks. And he's tackled down. So we'll see. I don't know if they're going to get Kyle Borger out to kick a field goal here. They are. They're going to get Kyle Borger out to kick a 55-yard field goal. It's a little windy here in Hamilton. Not nearly as windy as it was in Toronto for the earlier game of the night. Kyle Borger kicks it through, and the Rollers get the first points of the game, up 3-0. But just for one reason or another, once the Rollers get to their opponent's 40-yard line, it's like they get hit by a stupefier ray. Whether it be just unable to run the ball any further than that, they just can't get any completions, they throw an interception, it's just wild. Dalton Mini-Small is in his own end zone, now returning the ball. He'll only get it to the 20 before being stopped by Booker Trayton Jr., who was on special teams at that wide receiver number 4 spot. That'll be on the 20, 1st and 10 for Graham Howard. Kelly Olijuwova and Oscar Dudeman. Olijuwova on the counter run. He'll get 6 yards. Tackled by Nate Arnett. Actually, that probably wasn't Nate Arnett, but 6-yard gain. Gators at their own 26. Howard back to throw. Throws a lazy one over for Pete Moss at the 35. I can look that up if you remind me to after the stream. I have a way of doing that. Olijuwova on the handoff will get a 9-yard run. He's 2nd and inches. Aston Sullivan in his running back for the Gators. Minute 29 remaining in the first quarter. Sullivan play action. Pump fake by Howard. Throws it up out of a sack. And it's caught by Pete Moss at the 25 of the Rollers side of the field. A huge completion for Howard. Pete Moss, who has been the Gators' #1 guy as of late. Split backs for the Gators. Sullivan and Dudeman in the back. And it's going to hand off to Sullivan. He'll only go forward for 3 yards, though, before he's crunched down by middle linebacker Reno Pearson. Aston Sullivan up the middle. I don't know how he just did that. He's 1 yard short of a first down at 15. He tried to go up the middle. There was no holes. And we've seen multiple times, even today, in the earlier game between the Trash Pandas and the Hellcats, that when somebody goes up the middle like that, they're just instantly stopped by somehow Aston Sullivan just bounced off and instead just went off tackle in an incredible run. Now the Gators find themselves at the 15, an inch away from a first down. Olijuwova the lone back. Howard will throw, and he gets pressured and is unable to find anybody open under blitz pressure. So it'll be the Gators field goal unit out to tie up the game. Andre Fourscore with a 35-yard field goal attempt. This kick is good. We have a tie game here in Hamilton. This drive aided by a huge completion by Pete Moss from the Gators 45 all the way to the Rollers 35. And the Gators were able to get into the red zone, but good pressure from the Rollers kept the Gators to a field goal, and we have a tie score. 3-3. Here in the second. A deep kick by Andre Fourscore. Sid Manderjunk in his own end zone will kneel for the touchback. So Bud Beaglesworth back at the 20-yard line. But Beaglesworth in the shotgun to start off. Empty set. It's a 5 wide receiver set. Beaglesworth pump fake. Gators send 4. He'll give it to the short drag route. And August Halfprice shakes a tackle to the 50, to the 40. It was a short drag route. And one stiff arm later, he's clear and free for a big touchdown reception. That was huge. That was a 5-yard catch into like 60 yards of yak. This was incredible. Watch this. He gets the drag route. And look at this. Jay McDiggle gets stiff-armed and he fights off number 21. That is Draco Sanchez, the star rookie that the Gators have been relying on for a stellar cornerback defense, along with Biff Plunger and Halfprice. Just stiff-arms them both on the way to a huge touchdown. And the mill right now in uproarious cheers. An 80-yard pass, 75 of that yak. 2 shaken tackles by Halfprice. And Kyle Borger kicks the extra point. And all it took for the Rollers to get their heads in the game was a possible spite game against the Gators. And who knows, they might parlay that spite into their first win of the season. Kyle Borger ready to kick it deep. This one, kick to the right. Dalton Mini-Small at the 7 to return it. Picks up some blocks, but he won't get it to the 30 before he's tackled down by linebacker Jacob Layover. Out 3 and out on the first possession for the Gators. A field goal on their second one. They're now down by 7 here in the second. Big blitz by the Rollers, and that's going to be an incompletion with Carter Amenbrake just running over Pete Moss here. The Rollers on the big blitz right now. Pete Moss on the move. Howard back to throw. Another Rollers blitz, but Pete Moss is able to get the reception at the 40 for a first down. Pete Moss really stepping up as the number 1 receiver on the Gators so far this first half. 3 receptions for 50 yards. Fresh set of downs at the 40. Play action off of Kelly Ollie-Jawova. Throw to the flat. Wide open Oscar Dudeman, who just snowplows Sid Manderjunk out of the way. And Sid Manderjunk's actually injured after that Dudeman tackle. So he's going to have his elbow checked out on the sideline. Howard 5 for 7 so far in this first half. Ollie-Jawova and Dudeman in the backfield. Ollie-Jawova will go off tackle. A big hole will get him 13 yards, almost to the Rollers' 30. Big rush there for the second-year Gator and Gators veteran Kelly Ollie-Jawova. Ollie-Jawova play action. Howard holds onto it. Pete Moss in the back of the end zone for a touchdown. We have a tie game once again here, pending the extra point kick from Andre Fourscore. "31-yard touchdown pass. And if these trends continue, we're going to have a really close game here in Hamilton. The Gators so far going blow for blow. Now, unfortunately, the Gators not able to score on the opening possession of the game. So the Rollers still have the momentum, able to set the pace. They will receive the ball at the second half. As Booker Trayton Jr. at the 4 to return the ball up the middle. He receives a hard hit from linebacker Freddie Funky Dope. And then Bud Beaglesworth will start his drive from the 25. Full house formation for the Rollers. It's a handoff to tight end Richard Dollarstore, but it's stopped for no gain. Ted McMajors on the tackle. Bud Beaglesworth in the shotgun, 2nd and 9. Gators send 5, and Beaglesworth is going to hold on to it for a first down past the 35. Robert Stevens getting the tackle. This was such a great decision from Bud Beaglesworth. Although I think he honestly needs to protect himself. He could have slid there and still got the first down, but just trying to barrel in to rookie Robert Stevens. Fresh set of downs at the 36 for the Rollers. Quick step back for Beaglesworth as he runs up the field. He actually stiff arms down Jay McDiggle before being tackled from behind by Mark Maskinson. That is not something you can do every day. Back-to-back Bud Beaglesworth keeps for big gains. That's going to be 2nd and 5 now at the Rollers 41. Beaglesworth in the shotgun. Gators send 4. Mark Maskinson. No, sorry, that's TJ McMajors getting the sack. TJ McMajors hasn't really been getting a lot of game time for the Gators, but since switching to a 4-3 front after getting eviscerated by the Beefers, the Gators right now are on a 2-game losing streak after smothering the Shitbirds 3 weeks ago. But now TJ McMajors, Beaglesworth, gets it to the tight end at the 45 for a first down. That's Nicholas Parkride. But Kingston is going to use a challenge flag this opening half on the ball spot. They don't think this is a first down. Although that looks like a first... No, depending on where they spot the ball here, actually. It's where the feet is, so this should be in bounds. Even if Kingston wins the challenge here, I still think it's going to be a first down. Yeah, the play stands, so Kingston will lose a timeout this half. That may or not be big news, so the Rollers at their own 47-yard line on a bit of a roll. Pun intended, this drive. In the I formation, Garrett Rinser gets the handoff, but he's smothered by TJ McMajors. McMajors, a second-year Gator. Won a normal bowl with the Trash Pandas in Season 1. Garrett Rinser, the lone back. Big formation here from the Rollers. Gators send 6, and the tight end can't get past the coverage of the safety. Good blitz there from the Gators to force a third down. Beaglesworth in the shotgun for this 3rd and 10 try. Gators on man coverage. Gators send 4. Beaglesworth throws behind the sticks to August Half-Price, and that'll bring up a 4th down. Edward Frondo out to punt from midfield. 2 minutes and 4 seconds remaining, so we will get the 2-minute warning as the Gators wait for a fair catch, but Hamilton, Vernon Broadwaste gets a 10-yard holding call, so what could have been an amazing punt inside the 20 gets moved to the 21. As we hit the 2-minute warning, so the Rollers have effectively taken away 2 timeouts from the Gators, 1 on an overturned challenge, and now waiting to punt it away as, wow, that could have been bad. Throw on a comeback on a triple covered. I believe that was Samuel Norris. Triple covered Samuel Norris there. Actually, I don't know if they're playing Samuel Norris or Travis Payne at wide receiver 1. I should have double-checked before the game, huh? Big set here from Graham Howard over the middle, trying to get it to number 83. That was Samuel Norris on a crossing route, but knocked incomplete. 3rd down for the Gators. Wind up in the I formation. Sending 4 over the middle and nowhere near where it needed to be. That should have been to Harold Van Panel. Doing a tight end to post route down the middle. It was open and under the coverage. Over the pass really low, perhaps under pressure. The Riley 9 is out to punt. 1:43 and counting left in the half. Sid Manderjunk getting it almost to the 35 on this punt return. So Bud Beaglesworth in the shotgun, looking to get his team leading before the half. A lazy throw, and Piloni gets it high above the coverage of David Rains. First down at the 46, sorry. Beaglesworth empty set in the shotgun. 1:42. Gators send 4. Pass to the open flat to Dollar Store. That's going to be complete to the Gators 40. Fresh set of downs. Great work from Beaglesworth so far. But they're at the opponent's 40. Time to break the trend. Gators send 3, not a lot of pressure. It's a throw. It's going to be, what a catch from August Half-Price at the 15. That was almost out of bounds, but then he was actually tackled, and then, like, his origin was set back inbounds. That was incredible. Beaglesworth now inside the red zone of the Gators as they use their first timeout. Beaglesworth draw play to Garrett Rinser, pardons me, his way up the middle for a first down to the 3. Rollers with their second timeout. Correction, they weren't exactly at the 3 for a first down, and that's got to be defensive pass interference? No, it's not going to be called. That's crazy. I didn't see who the receiver was, but it was held up by one of the man defenders. That's going to bring up a 3rd and inches play. But Beaglesworth just needs to hand it to Garrett Rinser here for a first down, if not a touchdown. But no, he'll throw it to the corner, and it's knocked out of bounds by David Rains on Khalid Swim Lanes, who was wide receiver number 1 in Season 2, got moved to tight end number 1, and now with Richard Dollarstore and Nicholas Parkwright at tight end 1 and 2, he got knocked down to tight end number 3. I say knocked down, but moved to. So Kyle Borger to kick the 21-yard field goal attempt to bring it 13-10 with 47 seconds left in the first half. Kingston with 2 timeouts remaining to try and get something done here in the first half. Well, Mini Small to return. Gets it past the 25 before being... That is the kicker, by the way. That is kicker Kyle Borger getting the first tackle. He is just so insanely fast. It's insane. Insane that it's insanely fast, I guess. Gators with 2 timeouts, 44 seconds to go. Graham Howard in the shotgun, 4 wide receiver set. Rollers only send 3. They try to get it to Andy Overnight, but it's deflected by Drew Badford, who dropped back into covering the flat. Good job deciding to go for a coverage defense there. 3 wide receiver I formation for the Gators. 40 seconds remaining. Graham Howard stepping back, and what a blitz from linebacker Reno Pearson, who just comes around the open hole and just gets the sack. That was crazy, as Kingston has to use their first timeout. They only have 1 left after a failed challenge, trying to challenge a ball spot. 3rd and long. Howard throws it behind the sticks, and Moss drops it under coverage of a man break. So it'll be Riley Ninemil out for his 3rd punt of the game. This one a live drive down the middle of the field. Sid Manderjunkt muffs the punt, or muffs the catch, sorry. The ball will bounce out the side of the field to the 20-yard line. So the Rollers have 26 seconds to try and tack on some extra points, and it looks like they're keen on doing so. Bud Beaglesworth empty set from the shotgun. And he'll just keep it. What? Sliding forward for 5 yards. As somebody uses a timeout here, perhaps Kingston. But no, that wouldn't make any sense. Probably the Rollers using their final timeout. Again, I wish it told you who's using the timeout. There it is. Yes, it was the Rollers' timeout. They have 0 left. Keeping the clock paused at 20 seconds remaining. Beaglesworth in the shotgun. Audibling Richard Dollarstore on the line of scrimmage. And it's another keep for a 1st down. So the Rollers not in any rush to try and get back to the line of scrimmage here. So perhaps they're just going to call it. And they will. So that's the end of the 2nd quarter. Hamilton Rollers tacking on a field goal at the end there. And it's a 13-10 lead for the team that has no wins this season. However, while they are eliminated from championship hopes, they are playing for spite now, as a loss for Kingston tonight will virtually eliminate them from championship hopes. As Sid Manderjunkt gets a great return up the middle. He's almost clear. He had just Draco Sanchez to beat. However, the Rollers fighting all the way to their own 45. An amazing return by Sid Manderjunkt. Rollers with a short field to begin the half. Garrett Rinser, the lone back in a big formation. He gets handed off. That's a 6-yard gain up the middle, tackled down by Mark Maskinson. Richard Dollarstore on the move. Gators shifting their coverage. It's a handoff to Garrett Rinser. He's going to be stopped 1 yard short of a 1st down at the Gators' 46. Third and 2 for the Rollers. Beaglesworth to throw, throws it over the middle. It's complete to tight end Nicholas Parkride for a 1st down. Rollers at the 40. Rinser and Quiglet in the big I formation of 2 tight ends. It's a trickery play. Rinser running forward for a 2-yard gain. Color Store moved into a fullback position. Gators send 4. Beaglesworth trying to step out, but he gets tackled down by Matthew Hart Bishop for a sack. Beaglesworth empty set. Gators send 4. Throw to the corner. It's overthrown, intended for Booker Trayton Jr. That'll bring up another 3rd down. Well, that'll be a 4th down, sorry, as they punt it away. And Sid Manderjunk is able to swat it. Great special teams play that will place the Gators at the 3. Amazing punt and amazing play by the Rollers to get by the Gators special teams to keep the ball in bounds. Now the Gators are choked up at their side of the field at their own 3. You can tell that they're going to blitz in here and try and get a safety. Ali Jawova up the middle, stopped for a very minimal gain. Ali Jawova, another handoff. This one, another minimal gain. It'll be a 3rd and medium. Possibly a 3rd and 5. We'll see where the referees spot the ball. It's at the 7. Rollers chanting for their defense here. Gators have yet to convert on 3rd down. However, they have a little breathing room now. Rollers blitz. Off to the side. It's complete to Pete Moss at the 20 for a 1st down. Pete Moss getting on the outside of Carter Amen. Break for that reception. That was Pete Moss's 5th catch today. 3 minutes and 20 seconds remaining in the 3rd. Ali Jawova up the middle for 4 yards. Play action, rolling out of the pocket. Graham Howard throws it, tries to get it to number 83, Samuel Norris, but that was tight coverage by Emmett Mockright. I'll bring a 3rd and medium. Gators need 6 yards. Howard back to throw over the middle. Again, trying to get it to Norris off of Emmett Mockright coverage, but it's just not working. That'll bring up 4th down. Fair catch waved by Manderjunk at the 23. No scores yet in this second half. The Rollers with a 3-score lead. The best play, hands down, goes to a huge August half-price play where he stiff-armed Jay McDiggle and then shouldered Draco Sanchez for a big gain. Garrett Rinser falls forward for 6 yards. Rollers at the 28. Rinser Quiglet and Slick Quiglet gets flagged for a false start. That'll push them back 5 yards. Gators blitz out. That's picked up, and Piloni makes them eat it with a reception to the 35 for a first down. Draw play to Garrett Rinser up the middle. Great block by Slick Quiglet affords a 5-yard gain on that play. Rollers slowly chipping away time as they make their way down the field. 4 wide receivers set here for Biff Plunger. Garrett Rinser the lone back. Biff Plunger gets tackled down by number 98, Marshall Rockenstone. I don't know if that will be for no gain or a sack. We're not seeing any graphic for it. However, it'll be 3rd and 4. 3rd and 4.5, basically. Big formation here. Play action. Beaglesworth gets it to the open Richard Dollar Store at the 50, but the ball is loose, but it's picked up. First down, Rollers. That could have been disastrous turnover as we head to the 4th quarter. Rollers in possession of a 13-10 lead as they are at their own 48 on a steady pace up the field. Looking to bide their time. They're in the lead. It's to Garrett Rinser on the outside, and he gets it to a first down into Gators territory, almost to the 40. Second and inches, although it looks 2nd and 1 to me. Beaglesworth seemingly can do no wrong on this drive. Gators sending 4. It's an interception by Biff Plunger intended for August Half-Price, and man, is that not commentator's curse. Biff Plunger, one of the highest rated cornerbacks in the league right now, finally gets a spot to shine defending against August Half-Price, who already caught a ball for a big 70-yard touchdown earlier in the first half. Now gets the first turnover for the Gators. Gators at the 25. Ollie Jawova up the middle. Cuts up. 6-yard gain past the 30. Information. Howard steps back in the pocket. Good blocking. Gets it to Samuel Norris to the 45. Samuel Norris has had a hard time getting open against Emmett Bonkright, but as you see here on the slant, he gets wide open and gets open in space in the middle of the field for a big completion. The Gators acquired Samuel Norris at a trade with the Toronto Trash Pandas and immediately placed him at the wide receiver 1 role. Although his production at that position has been questionable. What is Ollie Jawova doing? That stopped for no gain at the 45. The Gators actually got some blocks, but Ollie Jawova just wasn't able to turn upfield after those blocks were secured. 2nd down. Ollie Jawova off tackle, only gets about 2.5 yards before being ballistic missiled down by Walter Kiteflyer. We haven't really talked about any players in this game, but Walter Kiteflyer has always been a fixture of the defense. He's called the ballistic missile due to just how insanely fast he is compared to the average linebacker in the TNFL. Third down for big reception for Samuel Norris to the 30. That was huge, cutting inside the cornerback. We're going to get a replay of that nonsense. Samuel Norris, oh my God, just stutters a little bit, gets in front of Emmett Bonkright for a key first down reception. And I said the production's not there. Well, that's 2 big catches in a row this drive. Now Aston Sullivan on the counter run, runs up, gets a 10-yard gain, tackled by Reno Pearson at the 20. Gators now into the Rollers and red zone. The Rollers have been in control of this game pretty much up to this point. However, that Bud Beaglesworth interception might have swung things the other way. 6-yard gain for Aston Sullivan up the middle. The Rollers desperate for a spite win against the Gators, because that would mean their first win of the season, and this is the last home game they have to play this season. As it's number 26, that's Screamley almost getting the first down. Quentin Screamley, that is. Quentin Screamley started the season as a fullback before Oscar Dudeman became fullback, and that's going to become a 3rd and inches play. The worst thing that Graham Howard can do right now is do some trickery, play action, and throw an interception. However, they're going to get it to Ollie Jawoba for a first down past the 10. Cooler heads will prevail for the Gators. Fresh set of downs inside the 10. The Rollers desperate to hang on to their lead. And the Gators are 9 yards away from losing it. Ollie Jawoba up the middle for 4 yards to the 6. This drive has been a great one for the Gators, chipping away a lot of play clock. We're almost at the 2-minute warning. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if the Gators hang on to the ball here. However, they will get Ollie Jawoba off tackle to the 2. It'll be 3rd and goal as we reach the 2-minute warning. Now watch the AI. It's like 2-minute warning, got a pass now at the for 3rd down. And that might be their undoing. We'll see what formation they come out here with. It is a 3 wide receiver I formation play. 2.5 yards to go. The Rollers have filled up the tackle box here. And it is a draw play, and they are stopped at the 5 for a loss. A good block there by Jordan Slanerty, the strong safety. And so it'll be Andre Fourscore out to kick the game-tying field goal. Chip shot for him. The Gators soaking up as much time as possible on this attempt, so we're probably not even going to see the snap for another 8 seconds or so. I believe the Rollers still have all of their timeouts remaining. And Andre Fourscore kicks it good. We have a tie game here in Hamilton for the time being, but the Rollers have 1 minute and 6 seconds to get something done. So this will be a squib kick from Andre Fourscore. I'm pretty certain of that. Although we have seen a squib kick go wrong in the case of the Shitbirds earlier this season. Nope, they'll just do a regular kick here. So probably the good call. Sid Mander jumped at the 15. Gets tackled down at the 25. So the Rollers, I still believe they have all 3 of their timeouts remaining. And I think this team needs to channel their Season 2 selves. Yes, it is Beaglesworth empty set in the shotgun. They are going to be throwing this deep. Gators send 4. They're throwing it deep to August Half-Price, but it's overthrown. The Rollers might be heading to their second overtime game of the season if they're unable to secure any points on this drive. The Beaglesworth is doing not bad for a TNFL quarterback. It's 10 for 16. Gators once again said 5, and it's a tuck rule sack. I'll bring up third down. Goal line formation for the Rollers. 54 seconds remaining in the fourth. And they're going to Garrett Rinser up the middle, and he's going to be 2 yards shy. Kingston using their first timeout. So what are the Rollers going to do here? Are they going to punt it away to Kingston, who still has 2 timeouts remaining at 51 seconds? Yes, they will. They'll get Edward Fongo out. They're not going to risk messing up, possibly getting an interception, or possibly the Gators stopping them and getting really short field position. And what a great punt there. The backspin putting it to around the 16. So now the Gators. What are the Gators going to do? Are they going to go Hail Mary it to end the half, or are they going to play conservatively? Rollers blitz. Andy Overnight for first down past the 25. Kingston with their second timeout. 39 seconds remaining. The Gators will have to use their last timeout for a game-winning field goal kick. Otherwise, they'll have to spike the ball later downfield. It's a handoff to Ollie Jawova up the middle. Picks up a good block for a 9-yard run. They'll scramble together for a no-huddle offense. Howard in the shotgun, 4 wide receiver set, 30 seconds remaining. Rollers only send 4. It's a big run by Pete Moss to the 20, the 10. The Gators have just scored a touchdown. And this Rollers crowd is angry. They have been leading and, dare I say, controlling the game up to the fourth quarter. And what might turn out to be a controversial Edward Gogo punt on 4th and kinda short in their own territory to try and maintain possession of the ball has now turned into the Gators getting possession of it with 22 seconds left and getting a touchdown. The extra point is good, so now the Rollers need a touchdown of their own with 22 seconds remaining in order to tie up the game and bring this to overtime and fight tooth and nail for their spite win. So, we didn't see a squib kick earlier. We might see a squib kick here from Andre Fourscore. Although, honestly, I don't see the harm in just kicking this bad boy as far ahead as possible, because I don't think you want the Rollers starting at the 40 should it go wrong. Yes, it will be a squib kick. Vanderjunk picks it up at the 15 and gets a good return past the 35. The Rollers, 20 seconds left. With my faulty memory, they should have around 2 timeouts remaining. At the 35, sorry. Make it the 37. Beaglesworth in the shotgun. They have an opportunity to send their home crowd happy for the first time this season. Beaglesworth on the keep, goes forward 6 yards. Sorry, they have 3 timeouts left. They used their first one with 16 seconds remaining. If they have 3 timeouts remaining with this little time left, I sniff some clock management issues, but whatever. They have enough time to use them all up right now. Beaglesworth in the shotgun still. Piloni on the move. High snap. Throw up. It's caught by Miles Gundark at the 40, who shakes a tackle to the Gators 35. They use their second timeout. Rollers need a touchdown to bring it to overtime. Or if they're feeling greedy, a touchdown and a 2-point conversion will get their first win. We'll see what they do. They're at the Gators 35 with 11 seconds, 10 seconds left. Beaglesworth throws it to the outside. It's tipped away by linebacker Eddie Chumbo. Eddie Chumbo is still listed on my page here as a backup. That is incorrect. That's why it took me a little bit to find the number there. 7 seconds remaining and 1 timeout left for the Rollers. Beaglesworth in the shotgun. They need a miracle to tie it up and bring it to overtime. The Rollers need their first win. Blitz from the Gators. He gets it to Piloti at the 15. Timeout, timeout, please. That's 2 seconds remaining on the clock. The Rollers will have 1 play left to try and tie this up. Piloti gives the Rollers a pulse. Beaglesworth in the shotgun. And no, he gets brought down by Mark Baskinson. That's the game, and the Hamilton Rollers will not have a win yet this season. And that's got to be heartbreaking, but the Gators are certainly celebrating, as their hopes for the championship are still somewhat alive, but the Rollers unable to get their spite win as they are now swept by the Gators this season. We'll go to the individual stats here. Graham Howard throwing a 127.8 passer rating, 124 yards and 2 passing touchdowns with no interceptions, a 55% completion rating. Bud Beaglesworth throwing a 94.1, 222 yards with 1 touchdown and 1 interception that might have been his undoing. I think it was the moment that Bud Beaglesworth threw that pick, the entire momentum of the game got turned around, because up to that point, Beaglesworth and the Rollers were kind of setting the pace. It was like incredibly good, and the 60% completion rating, you've got to be proud of that as a quarterback in this league where like quarterbacks suck in the TNFL. It's crazy. Kelly Olajuwon, your rushing leader, 55 yards on 13 attempts. However, Garrett Rinser beating him out on the yards per carry aspect, 4.5. 45 yards on 10 attempts, and Beaglesworth on keeps, 8 attempts for Beaglesworth. That includes sacks, mind you, but still getting 39 yards. Receiving total, Pete Moss was such a hero for the Gators this game. 6 receptions for 155 yards and 2 touchdowns caught. August Half-Price with a huge play for the Rollers that really set the tone for them early. That's 70-yarder with like 65 of it being Yak. He's over the century mark at 111. With Piloni getting that huge reception at the end there to keep the hopes alive. Jamad Gilbert, 11 pancakes. That is a season best for him, and Stan Hiddums, recently acquired from the Janitors in a trade before Week 7, sets the Rollers' best of the day at 6 pancakes. Jay McDougall, most tackles at 7. Sacks by TJ McMeegers, Reno Pearson, Mark Baskinson, Matthew Hart-Bishop, and Drew Badford. Lots of hands on the quarterbacks this game. And interceptions by Biff Plunger, who might be man of the game here. No forced fumbles or safeties.